I'm June Lloyd, and I'm Librarian Emerita at the York County History Center. And I also do a lot of historical research, do a newspaper column and blog posts for the newspaper. Most historians believe that York was the fourth capital, not the first capital. I know it's kind of catchy. It actually started out basically as a public relations campaign in the 1960s, and it kind of grew from there with some help along the way. There's a very good book that has been written on the 9 capitals of the United States by Dr. Fortenbaugh. In fact, the present Congress, the Senate, uses his source on their website listing all the 9 capitals, of course listing us 4th. The reason that they moved to York from Philadelphia was because the British were occupying Philadelphia, so Continental Congress had to have somewhere to meet. And while they were meeting in York, in November of 1777, the Articles of Confederation were adopted here. We had that framework that showed that we were a country, that we were working together. And that's why this was such an important time. One of the first seeds I found is about every 10 years, the local Chamber of Commerce did a book, and the one in the 1940s, they talked about York being a capital, but they didn't really say the first capital, and neither the one in the 1950s. Now, in the late 1960s, that one did, but there was that public relations campaign that I referred to in between there. And that really seemed to get the ball rolling. It was in 1961, and at that time there was a Colonial York Tourist Bureau, whose job, of course, was to attract visitors to York. And they put out a set of stamps of landmarks all over the county. But on each stamp, they had printed the first capital. And that seemed to be really the start of it. And the president at that time, we have correspondence about that, and there were articles actually in the newspapers too about, well, isn't this going to cause a controversy? Yeah, but that seemed, the attitude seemed to be of that visitors bureau of that time that, well, if it gets people's attention, it will have done its job.
October 22nd, 1961. Gentlemen, I have seen the expression York, first capital of the United States, frequently of late, on stationery of Hotel Yorktown, the historic York stamps, etc. Isn't this an error? Lancaster was the capital 3 days before York, and Philadelphia before Lancaster. Recently, I mentioned this to my friend Fred J. Bailey, president of Colonial York Tourist Bureau, who seemed to agree that it might be an error. But so what? Just what are the facts and dates?
That seems to be the real impetus behind it, that it was kind of catchy, and it did generate discussion.
We feel that the capitalization is important. It tells us that there were then 13 United States of America, but no United States of America. Since there was no United States, it could not have a capital. Hence, the signing of the Declaration of Independence by the Second Continental Congress did not make Philadelphia the first capital of the United States.
I don't think you can use the capitalization to say, well, it wasn't capitalized the same as it was in the Articles of Confederation, so therefore they weren't using it as a title. Because at that time, and actually it was capitalized in Jefferson's first draft, even though the capitalization was changed in the gross copy that the delegates eventually signed. But there just wasn't as much standardization to capitalization and punctuation as there is today. So that didn't really, in my opinion, mean it wasn't being used as a title. Currency that was printed in Philadelphia in early 1777, before Congress came here, used the United States. Before that, the first several issues of currency did say United Colonies. But then it was changed to the United States, but it was changed before it came here. There are people that do make convincing arguments that if you look at things a certain way, if you look at some of the documents, that they could, possibly be read to look upon York as the first capital. I think the people that really delve into it are, I know, they're really sincere, because this is what these documents and facts, etc., say to them. Evidence is open to interpretation. That's their interpretation, that's fine. I don't think it has to be resolved. I think the important thing is that we recognize that we were the capital of the United States during a very important time in the history of the United States.